Hello, and welcome to the Specialty Matcha Podcast. My name is Ryan. This is my co-host Zongjun, who also goes by Sam.
Hello, hello.
And we're the co-founders of Sanko Matcha Products.
Yeah, we launched this podcast to discuss our learning journey in matcha, share startup stories, and interview experts. And today we have Nicha and Francis from Haru Matcha joining us. Welcome, guys.
Hi. So nice to be on the podcast.
Yeah, we're so excited to be here.
Great to have you on. We'd love to learn a little bit more about you guys, like where you're based, what your background is, and your matcha journey.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start. So we're a specialty matcha brand based out of London in the UK. We started really because we wanted to showcase the different cultivars of matcha and different tasting notes that you can get with matcha. So we noticed that matcha is starting to become a little bit popular. People starting to drink it a few years ago, but it's still like a very generic product. Whereas actually we know that it can be like a lot more kind of complex, showing different cultivars and different varieties from different parts of Japan. And so we really want to bring that to the UK and kind of like show the UK market how great matcha can be, how complex it can be, how nuanced it can be as well. So we launched recently in December, and that was like our first matcha product, which was like our Hana blend. But before that, we were doing lots of matcha tasting experiences, which we've been doing in the year before that, which really inspired by Nisha's kind of knowledge of matcha, who really kickstarted it and had done matcha tasting experiences a lot in Thailand as well.
Yeah, so I grew up and I'm from Thailand. I work and study in Bangkok. You might have known Ryan because you've been there, and there's a lot of matcha specialty matcha bar, I would say. And so that's how, I'm get familiar with like high quality of matcha, and I'm really fascinated by food culture in general. And then to get to see like there's so much nuances and a lot of knowledge behind matcha, I think is so fascinating. And I also like go to Japan quite a few times since I was a kid because my mom, she studied there. So I'm familiar with kind of Japanese cultures, and I really like the philosophy behind almost everything, especially matcha. I went to the tea ceremony and to learn how to like make matcha in the tea ceremony, and I think it's such a beautiful kind of angles of matcha that we don't really see a lot in the Western world. And when I moved to the UK, when I come to my master's in 2021, I was just quite disappointed that I cannot find
Yeah,
to be honest,
very different scene.
like there wasn't that many cafe that do good matcha. They probably use like a really bad quality one. I literally cannot drink that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that was
Yeah.
like I'm sure you guys probably know the Arabica coffee. They also have matcha, and that's the first time that I introduced matcha to Francis. It was actually our first date.
Wow,
Cute.
special.
Yeah.
And he was saying like, oh, it tastes just like seaweed. And I just say like, oh yeah, I mean, this is quite good quality already, but like, I mean, not as good as the one that I've tried in back home or in Japan. So I was just like, okay, like I need to bring you like the good quality matcha. And so when I visited home and then I bring some matcha powder back to the UK, he was like, oh my God, this is really, really nice. It's quite nutty. If I remember correctly, that was the one from Yame. Yeah,
Nice.
it just really changed his perspective on the matcha. And I think that's how we sort of, okay, there's still a lot of gaps in the UK, and we also don't see a lot of matcha appreciation. It's a lot of matcha here. Not that it's a bad quality, but it's full of syrup or a lot of milk in it. And when I had it, I cannot really taste any matcha taste in it. It's just milk or syrup. And it's quite like disturbing.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry to be quite cynical here.
I totally agree. Like it's
Yeah.
not comparable matcha scenes. Like Bangkok is like several generations in front of maybe even like the rest of the world, and definitely like a step forward than Japan, even in the way
Yeah.
it presents it to a consumer. Because in
Yeah.
Japan, it's all like,
In a very
Yeah.
contemporary consumption scenario.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been blown away by everything that we've seen and tasted in Bangkok and learned. It's easier to learn. Actually, I think there's no better place to learn as a consumer about matcha than like going to like an MTCH and just chatting with the
Yeah.
person behind the bar. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
everyone's so knowledgeable. It's
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
next level.
it's better than our experience in Uji and in the main street.
Yeah, because the founder of MTCH, he knows a lot, and a part of our brand, I feel like I've been inspired a lot by what he is doing as well. Just like Manabu, like the way that we can educate people a little bit more about matcha, and so that people can test and understand, like, or at least differentiate between good and bad matcha. I think it's
Yeah.
really interesting, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it just really gives you like that perspective on what the UK is missing out on.
Yeah.
Having like seen it over and like experienced it, like growing up in Thailand as well.
How do you see like UK and English tea culture clashing with this idea of matcha? Like I imagine that like the old grandma and grandpas wouldn't even think of matcha as tea necessarily. Like it's something so
Yeah.
different than what they know. Like how do you see those two cultures clashing?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think, yeah, I mean, well, tea is like a big thing in the UK, but also people might be quite like protective over exactly how the tea should be done, or they're used to it like a particular way. We have seen like this place in London kind of doing, because you know, like afternoon tea is like a big thing for how we like consume tea in the UK. So there's people trying to be doing like a matcha afternoon tea, where it's like combining like matcha. Yeah, and we did go. We feel like if we did that, we could like maybe do it better, but we have found as well, like because we do matcha pop-ups in different places, and we've done it like to different places in London and different places in the UK have like obviously different markets. So like some people obviously like younger demographics, some older demographics, and we've seen like people who are more kind of like maybe older, more like entrenched in how tea should be, are a bit like reticent, like reluctant to kind of try matcha and going. But um, but yeah, I mean, I think like the more it kind of gets embedded, I think the more people will be accepting of it as a part of tea culture in the UK. Because that's like where tea culture came from, is like bringing tea from unknown tea from like the east over to here, and it's kind of like the same thing. But also I think that matcha, like the way matcha is drunk sometimes here, it's almost not presented as if it's like tea, because it's like presented in a way as if it's coffee, or is it or with like lots of syrup, like in a similar way to where they sell Starbucks. Doesn't really emphasize that tea element all the time. Like I've even known some people not even actually, who are like very unfamiliar with matcha, not even know it's tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've experienced similar things. It's like shocking sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. But I think when we do the sampling, so because now we are stopping at Japan Center, and when we go there to do the sampling to introduce people to the matcha, and we start to see older generations, they are more interested, but they focus a lot on the health benefits. They usually come to us and ask like, I heard that this tea has a lot of antioxidants, or like I heard that this tea helps me thinner, and those kind of things. Like they focus quite a lot on the health benefits, which is quite interesting, because I think in Thailand it's a little bit different. We focus a lot on the tests, and I think I drink a lot of matcha, and I wasn't really focused too much on what's in it. Like, yeah, I just know, yeah, it's green, it should be green, but I didn't, like back in the day, I didn't know that it actually has a lot of antioxidants, for example.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Something Zongjun and I've talked about is that like an Asian coffee and tea culture that's not traditional, like this more modern concepts, like these bubble teas, all the coffee programs and matcha. It's like it's a indulgent thing. It's like
Yeah.
it's like it's I don't want to call it a dessert alternative, but the consumer need state like is very different like mindset than
Yeah.
the
They
way
called
we
it
think about.
they called it the desertification of a beverage. So
Oh, like
all of these
Yeah.
beverages are turning into a small dessert almost.
Yeah, yeah, I
Mm.
can imagine that, because like every after meal, I feel like I need something sweet. I would just probably go for matcha,
Yeah.
because It seems to be a little bit better than getting Thai tea because it's green. Yeah. And also like just to add a little bit on the UK culture thing, on the health benefits. We see a lot of product development that they mix matcha with like lion manes or kind of like other substance to help you focus or like increase productivity. Because like I
Yeah.
think a lot of trend here focus on health conscious, on health aware. Yeah, we saw a lot of that coming.
Like these mushroom matchas and mushroom
Yeah.
coffee.
Yeah.
I wonder from a flavor perspective, like, do you see a pattern of, preference towards different flavor of matcha in the UK versus like other places in, like, for example, Bangkok, or of your own preference? Like, do you see there's a difference or more like similarities? Because I would imagine like, people in the UK drink like English breakfast or, Earl Grey, like these are more oxidized kind of flavor profile, which you don't necessarily find them in matcha most of the time, maybe in hojicha a little bit. Yeah. So what do people usually like in the UK?
Yeah, I think it's quite mixed. So we have matcha from Uji, which is more like umami and quite refreshing and related to kind of floral or seaweed tones. And then we have the other one from Yame, which is more like nutty tones. And we see that there's a mix between like people when we do sampling. See, if we make it like without milk, we see that people actually quite like the Uji one quite a lot.
Okay.
Mixed with milk, they do really like the Yame one because they feel like it can relate to like kind of roasty, which is quite similar to coffee. And I think for people who love coffee, they really like the Yame flavor profile more. And yeah, I remember you say like, so first time that Francis test the Yame one, he really likes it. And he also really like Hotisha. And
Yeah.
you say it's really similar to
Cool.
Guinness.
Yeah. Like with
Yeah,
the
I can totally see
flavor
that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say like I mean, speaking to my parents and stuff, like showing them matcha, and they just like always have tea, and they're like the type of people who just they have to have tea every day. Like if they go on holiday, they have to bring English breakfast tea to have like every day. Like they can't not have tea. So I guess like when they try, it's a bit I think my mum said like, oh, it takes a bit of getting used to. Like she's like quite a different flavor like that you're not used to with the kind of freshness of the matcha tea.
Mm.
I think, yeah, I think it's something which for a lot of people that are used to like English breakfast tea, like takes a bit of getting used to when you drink it like as a sucha.
Mm.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's when we introduce as ususha, it's more difficult to get people into it, I would say.
Yeah.
Because they are not used to it. And sometimes they say that it's like too bitter for them because it's ususha, it's without milk or any syrup. And when we sell in the pop-up market, we also don't add any syrup. If we do latte, we just add quite a lot of matcha shots on and without syrup. So some people would ask for syrup, but we're trying to introduce like no syrup and just focus on matcha. It's been quite an
It's
interesting
awesome.
journey.
Well, it
Like
gives people a ladder too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Some people find it quite similar to green tea, but we're trying to explain like what's the difference between the matcha and green tea.
Yeah. How does the flavor profile go down like the US? Because we don't really know much. Well, I don't really know much about the perception of it there.
Yeah. I think it depends on where you are.
Yeah.
Like the coasts usually like get everything first, like New York,
Yeah.
LA, San Francisco. I lived in New York for 6, 7 years, so I have the most consumer experience there. And, the concept of origin in New York is very, very new.
Yeah.
I moved out in 2022, and even then, there was one place that kind of generally had a lot of yame. There's a few places that had uji, and then like everywhere else like didn't specify. Like matcha was
Yeah.
Yeah.
matcha. Maybe like if you talk to a barista, they'd be like, "Yeah, we have ceremonial grade." It's
Right.
it was a very different conversation.
Yeah.
I think that's changing. I've
Yeah.
only observed it remotely, but of the matcha founders that I've talked to that are US based, the general consensus is that there's a leaning towards a lot of the yame flavor profiles when
Mhm.
presented the option, and they've compared the two. But that
Yeah.
said, too, you have all the explosion of these traditional uji vendors that have a very uji flavor profile that people are also really enjoying too. So it's a big mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. It's mixed. And I think a lot of people here, they focus a lot on Uji because they know that Uji is the birthplace, or like the
Yeah.
way that social media is presented matcha is that Uji is probably the best place to get matcha. So that's why they're always like, oh, is this from Uji?
Yeah.
They focus on the origin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when people start to know about
Yeah,
matcha.
when they know.
Yeah, there's still a lot of people who just don't know a lot about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, even within the Uji, once you've known it, then it gets really complex because
Yeah.
I think we're going to record a podcast episode. We don't know what we're going to title it yet.
We need to find the right narrative to frame this because, it's quite sensitive.
Yeah, because like, what is it? Like less than 1% of Uji matcha is grown in Uji. It's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
deceptive because it's unfair. Like they're like within the Japanese government, like they have a definition of various like where your tencha comes from, and it can come from neighboring prefectures or from up in Wazuka and within Kyoto prefecture. But like most of it's coming from Kagoshima and processed in Uji. And I'm beginning to think that it's like a lot more like Swiss chocolate, right? There's no chocolate or cocoa production being done in Switzerland, but that's where a lot of value is being added to create profiles that people think of
Yeah.
as Swiss chocolate.
But also on the other hand, it's really not, something that it's inevitable by the end of the day because there's just not enough tea being grown in Uji. And in order for all
Yeah.
these matcha brands and matcha manufacturers and the whole matcha community to survive, they kind of have to import tea from elsewhere and get it to process into matcha. So it's quite complicated as we learn more about it. There's no black and white in this whole situation.
Yeah, you can really argue both sides. On the
Yeah.
consumer perspective, the more I think about it, if you call a tea a Yame tea, like
Yeah.
it comes from Yame. If you call a tea it's from Kagoshima or Shizuoka, or even like more specific, like Chiran within Kagoshima, it is a statement of origin.
Yeah.
And you have all of these statements of origin, and they're all true except one, which is really
Yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we can really relate because when we went to Uji, I was actually surprised. It was our first time in Uji. And then we would expect like, when we go to France, you see a lot of vineyard in Bordeaux, for
Yeah.
example.
Oh, yeah.
And then when we were in Uji, it's like, oh,
It's quite small.
it's very
Yeah.
small. And every brand in the UK say that the tea is from Uji.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
quite surprising. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very surprising. And we also visited a couple of farms that is a little bit like outside of the Uji center, but like Ujiwara, for example, or Gokasho.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
like also like
Oh, Gokasho. Yeah, that's Uji
yeah, like
proper.
a bit bigger than in the central Uji, but yeah, still not that much. And when we drive on the road, we just thought like, where are the tea farms?
It's just like
Yeah.
small sections. Like because we'd visited like vineyards in France
Yeah.
before. And yeah, it was like very like wide expanse of just everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were doing the same thing in Uji on one day too. And it's actually quite sad because like if we look around, like all of these landscape, all these like buildings and highways, there used to all be like tea farms, tea gardens, and
Mm.
urban development just
Yeah.
slowly eating into the tea production. And the farmer has very little control over it. Like there's one Hongzu shaded garden that we have visited. One ginormous like highway bridge just cuts straight through it. It's it's very sad to see that.
Yeah, that's really sad because it's already low supply as well.
Yeah, already low and there's like abandoned tea fields all over. You don't have to walk very far to find like clearly abandoned tea fields within Uji proper. It's it's a really weird, like some of the best terroir arguably in the world. It's just sitting
Yeah.
vacant. It hurts
Yeah.
the soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly. And also like with the aging society, like it's quite concerning in terms of like
Yeah.
intergenerational like kind of knowledge, like who will take care of the farm in the next 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just like really like nice too, because we like met some of the farmers, and when it's like a really intergenerational thing, like one of the farmers we spoke to, I think he had like his grandfather was like still picking tea leaves, and he's like
Wow.
how old? He was like late 80s.
80,
Yeah.
late 80s.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's something that in this particular case, it was like very like long tradition in their family. It's like very cherished as part of their kind of family tradition.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just something I want to see keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you guys find like your trip in your sourcing trip and like how it met your expectations and what you learned on the ground and talking to farmers?
Yeah, it was so fascinating. And all of that just basically show us that it just requires a lot of work, a lot of dedications, a lot of care, knowledge, and expertise more than we actually thought it would be. It's like when you once you see it with your own eyes, it's just like, wow,
Yeah.
this all add up to why matcha is like more expensive than a green tea. And I still feel that much like the farmers that they sell is still not that expensive considering like
Yeah.
when you get from the brand, a lot of the brand here, they add quite a lot of profit margin on that. And that's like surprise that, oh wow, like the farmers didn't sell it at that higher price comparing to what the middleman get. And it's really interesting. So one the farms that we visited in Gokasho is the farm of the husband and the wife. And the
Right.
wife, she walked us through like and guide us through the farms. So luckily we were there before the busy times. So we were there around like late February, early March. Um, and they were not covering the shade just yet because they will usually cover it at the end of March. And that also means that you can interact a lot with them
Yeah.
because they have like Saimidori, Uchi Hikari, Samidori, Asahi, and Honsu Asahi in the farms. And so like we learned about like so what's the difference between all of them, like from like Uchi Hikari has like curly leaf or like
Yeah.
Saimidori has a like more straight kind of like stems so that it's
Yeah.
easier to pick, for example. And I think like the really tricky thing is that they can only like so the first harvest like once in a year is only 3 weeks. So that's really, really crunch time for them to finish everything in 3 weeks. So we were like saying, like, wow, that's really short period of time. Like, how do you manage that? So they would have to hire like the more tea pickers and they will start working from 6 a.m. until the end of the day, which
Yeah.
is really overworking, I would say. Like, and I feel like they deserve a lot of more compensation for that. And like all of these really add up. Like they handpick and everything is done by hand. And also like different cultivars have different like kind of picking period, which I think is really interesting kind of anecdote. For example, like Asahi, you can only do it like within maybe 1 to 2 days, and uji hikari as well. That's why it's really expensive. But with samidori, they say it's around like 10 days. And for us, like we say to her that "Oh, it's very short." And then she said, "For us, this is already very long." It's like, wow, it's a really stressful time. Like when you buy the matcha powder, like you wouldn't really know all about this until
No.
like you really go there. Yeah.
And how
Yeah, I
much
think it's amazing to see like the care and the precision. Like we asked, like,
Yeah.
how do you decide what day and what time to pick? And she said, "Oh, my husband decides this. This is very, very serious decision."
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like the care and like attention they pay to it is just it's
Yeah.
quite amazing to see.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it varies day by day. Like you
yeah,
cannot really like pick the day, but it depends on like the weather as well. And especially like this year, I think the weather is changing quite a lot. It varies quite a lot. So the harvest times really like moved a little bit. Um, yeah, they just work so hard. And she also have like the plantation with just the organic, but it also costs a lot to get the certified fertilizer
Mm.
for that. And the umami flavors also like affected by like the fertilizer.
yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
really
because
tricky
another
one as
farm
well.
we visited, we were asking like how the flavor profile is like how the flavor profile is affected by different things like the terroir and the shading. And he said like a lot of it's affected by the fertilizer. Like which I didn't expect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 yeah. Because I thought
yeah,
it's just like a lot on like the terroir and
yeah.
like the cultivars, and but actually a lot of
Yeah, which does have an
yeah,
impact. But like, yeah, he was
it
saying
does.
that
Yeah,
fertilizer has like a big impact on that.
Yeah, fertilizer is almost like part of the processing of the tea, I feel like. A lot of the flavor is driven by the different recipes of different gardens, different farmers that they end up creating, which is quite fascinating. like different farmers, they will use different proportion of, the fish or the rice, or they sometimes add like, oyster shells or not, sesame extracts and different things together to blend into the fertilizer. So that's, their own recipes, and it's kind of their own trade secrets. That's one thing that they do not talk about, actually,
Yeah.
doing all of these, community gatherings, because like they all kind of share the same Tensha oven corp, in different regions, and they would like all talk to each other and, kind of share the processing optimization that they each end up doing, and, kind of teach or, just learn from each other. But one thing that they do not share is their fertilizer recipe.
Yeah, we didn't get the fertilizer recipe information though.
Like trade secret. Yeah, and also the shade days also varies from farm to farms. I think that's also play a role in the flavor profile as well. The soil in Uji is quite like a sandy soil.
Mm.
I'm not sure about Yame because I haven't been there just yet. But yeah, it's interesting to see how all of these like all add up into the matcha powder, and just so fascinating. And then in the other farm that we went in Ujiwara, I would say because he's in quite a young generation, he's around our age. So his perspective on matcha seems to be a little bit different from the one in Gokasho. For example, like in Gokasho, they still do a lot of traditional method like honsu, asahi, where they use the rice straw to cover the matcha. But here, and also like do the hand pick there. But then in Ujiwara one, he was like, it doesn't matter if you use hand pick or you use like the machine pick. Like for him, it's not just about like the traditional, and which is quite interesting take. Like, and also like for play a lot of role. Like I think it's really interesting that kind of different perspective.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's it because it doesn't. Not everyone shares these same kind of opinions. It's like pretty
yeah,
interesting talking to different like levels of industrialization within this industry and
yeah,
scale. Because like,
yeah,
and then you realize you really can't like it's perspective. It's not truth, and there is no truth, and like everyone
Yeah.
has their own opinion, and then like it turns into a very complex story actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I would say like using machine pick in his farm doesn't really, to me, matcha is still so good. Like it doesn't really matter. I know that in the Western world we use a lot of like, oh, this is hand pick, but for it doesn't. And like the first indicator to say that, oh, this matcha is bad or low quality, because at the end of the day, like, it's still like everything combined. And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think some of the concepts that they use to like evaluate food and drink products in the West don't necessarily apply in the same way
Mm.
in Japan. Like a lot of people want to see it being organic, but the sort of barrier to being organic in Japan is like places have like organic, and yeah, it being organic doesn't necessarily mean it's like it not being organic doesn't necessarily mean it's like worse, especially given the role that fertilizer can play in the flavor profile as well.
We were gifted some two reference samples that were processed by the same farm in the same
mm,
Tensha processing factory, harvested at the same time, both Okumidori, one standard, like fertilize and normal, like healthy use of pesticides, like conventional agriculture, and one zero pesticide, zero fertilizer. The difference between those teas was insane. The bitterness level, the astringency, the complexity, the nuance, the body, the umami, they were two completely different things. Like the fertilizer is so important. We
so
were
which
blown away. It
Yeah,
yeah,
really
which
changed our mental model of what's driving flavor in matcha cultivation.
yeah,
one is more umami?
Oh, the convention.
Surprise, surprise.
Turns out that all of these agricultural innovations have improved the taste over time. Like
yeah,
there's some like really weird internet commentary I've been reading on Reddit recently of some people that
Mm,
are really into old school farming, and they're like, "Oh, we should go back to the way the samurai used to drink it, like ditch
mm.
all of this modern stuff. We should just do the natural thing." And I'm in full support of this type of agriculture in general. I think that people should limit the use of pesticides and it's like some things, But like the reality is it's really, really, really hard to get it to taste good. And actually outside of Gokasho, there are very few producers that can make a good tasting organic product that is even comparable to the sensory experience of some of the others, at least in our experience.
Yeah, yeah. We also got the
Yeah.
sample from Wasuka, and so he's like the Thai farmer that also grow rice and also matcha in his farm. This is really interesting, and
In
he also,
Wazuka.
yeah, in Wasuka, and he
Okay.
doesn't use
Yeah.
any pesticide. Yeah, I can see that like the matcha tastes
Yeah.
like quite different from Uji. Yeah, but I think it also depends on like different like palate. Like some people might prefer
For sure.
less umami and things. So
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And how you prepare it as well.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
that too.
yeah,
And processing obviously also makes a big difference.
yeah, exactly. The one that we went to, Ujiwara, we really feel so warm welcome because he invited us into his old tea house that has been there for like 100 years, and
Oh,
he was
cool.
doing like the matcha testing for us, which we really, really appreciate. It feels so like so intimate.
Yeah, that was really cool. That was the
Yeah.
highlight of our trip.
Yeah.
Because we were like in his house, and has like very traditional house. Drink like matcha there.
Yeah.
The farm was really cool.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the tea house of the farmer, and his house is just like so close to where they firstly invented the matcha grinding process. So he said that this area is actually the true origin of matcha in Uji. Yeah, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And we also went to visit like a couple of matcha, like the more like famous brand that a lot of like more global, like Haru Matcha.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we went there, and obviously we asked a lot of questions because we're just so like a nerd in matcha. We want to sort of like learn almost everything, and we asked like his shop assistant, and then Hori-san probably see that we really into this, that he was just basically come to help explain, and he also like make like do the matcha testing for us, and we were just like,
Wow.
oh my god, this
Wow,
is like,
lucky.
That's special.
oh my god, this is like a celebrity. It's like,
Yeah.
I think that's also another memory that I really like
Yeah.
from the trip.
Yeah. Because actually in
That's
the
awesome.
Uji Museum, I have a bit of information about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'd just done the tasting with him, and then we saw him in the museum.
Yeah.
Very lucky. Have you
Awesome.
guys had the Narino cultivar from them?
Yes.
My that like totally changed my perception of matcha the first time I tasted it a couple of
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
ago. It's really
It was
special.
magical.
Yeah. Sometimes like once you try a really good matcha, you just feel like you cannot go back to the
Yeah.
average one.
It sets the bar.
Yeah, and that's gonna cost you a lot of money.
I actually asked them about like, because in the West, like a lot of people will typically drink matcha with milk and like latte and stuff. Asked them about like what they think about if people are drinking matcha with milk, and they were like, you can't drink this with milk. You cannot drink this with milk. You have to drink it. Like if you're gonna buy this, you've got to drink it
Yeah.
straight.
Yeah. Because I can understand his point of view though, because like he put a lot of work, and he just want people to really test what he produced, which is totally fair.
Oh yeah, totally understandable. We got
Yeah.
to experience like tea picking and saw some tea processing over the course of time in different areas. Oh my god, it's back-breaking works.
Yeah.
It's really hard to make matcha and very difficult. Got to spend a lot of effort, and dumping that into like a cup of milk is criminal.
Yeah. Yeah, because especially when it's like, I don't know, like some people will be like hype about matcha, and it's like, I think what you like is actually not matcha. It's just like a lot of milk and a lot of syrup together, which, I mean, yeah, fair enough.
Well, you could say the same thing about a lot of the coffee consumption too.
Yeah.
But then like the axis of appreciation is a little different. Like you have the indulgent taste of the syrups and the milk, but also like what could be arguably considered a healthier relationship with caffeine too. Like if it's a nice caffeinated beverage and you're very caffeine sensitive. So it's like if you perspective shift a little bit, it's interesting watching people cast judgment on the internet about this matcha and milk debate. It's endlessly, because like I really agree with like Hori-san, like especially for the Norino and the Okonoyama. I
Yeah.
will admit that I actually have done some experiments tasting what does this taste like with milk, just
Yeah.
out of my own curiosity, and did some side by sides. Like it objectively actually still tastes good. So
Yeah.
like,
Mm.
can it be crafted into an incredibly tasting product? Undeniably, the answer is yes. And actually, I think that Thailand is on the bleeding edge of that area, of
Mm.
taking the best ingredients, insanely meticulous, perfect, well-crafted preparation. There's a guy, I forget his name, but his Instagram handle is Minimal Meal, and he's very good friend. He's in Sukhumvit, but he's very good friends with the Koto tea people
Yeah.
in Sathon.
Yeah.
But he's doing these insane things with like handpicked Asahi cultivar from Sujisan in like Shirakawa and like mixing it with various things. But it's so elevated, like it
Mm.
feels like it's fine cuisine mixed with this. And like you see like Suji-san reposting his stuff. Like so he must be okay with the fact that it's being used as an ingredient. And
Yeah.
really interesting things going on in the edges of that. And
Yeah.
like, I argue both sides all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna ruin the subtlety and nuance. But then on the other side, like, well, if I get to try a competition Asahi cultivar gelato that someone spent a whole lot of time, energy, and effort making taste amazing, yeah, I'd buy it.
Yeah. I think it's fair. Like, if you mix with milk, then you gotta also present the taste of the matcha very well. I
Mm,
think probably like in Thailand, when I also went to the matcha workshop in Thailand, and like I got this recipe, and I think they used like 5 grams of matcha. I think that's why it can also still introduce the taste of the matcha really well. I think versus here in the cafe, generally, I think they use probably like 1 to 2 grams.
yeah, they're not using enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, when we do matcha tasting experiences, typically we try and like show everyone like pure matcha from like different cultivars and like try to talk about the origin about it and like
Mm.
try to get people to think about the tasting notes and tell them about the origin. And then at the end they get the chance to like have like matcha latte. if
Of
they
the
want.
shows, yeah.
Yeah, and we're kind of like because we know that I guess there's like different audiences to like cater for as well. And we're sometimes trying to show people who may only had it as a matcha latte to appreciate it, the kind of different cultivars first before they have it as a matcha latte. So that's kind of a way of like boosting and enhancing their experience of matcha.
Mm.
That we've found that's like an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What when you're doing workshops and stuff or like markets, what is predictive of someone liking matcha and really probably is then going to become a repeat consumer? Like if you're watching people walk by or someone's walking up and you're probably in the back of your mind have some sense, okay, I think this person's going to like it or I think this person isn't going to like it. How do you form that profile of person?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we have got an answer to that, but I don't want to be like
It's kind of a difficult question, Ryan.
say like loads of stereotypes and stuff like that. But yeah, we definitely have got perceptions. I mean, I guess with like some like, older generation, I would say who come up, they do sometimes try it, and I think especially at first when we're doing it, like when we're first doing like markets and experiences, it was quite difficult to like sell to them, and we had some like pop-up markets where we were in an area where it's pretty much just like all older generation people, and it was like very difficult to sell matcha, and we were getting like, what is this like, and it was like very like foreign flavor to them. But yeah, and I guess it's probably like people who are, I'd say about like around 30. I mean, obviously people who are from kind of like East Asian culture, like from Thailand, are more, or from sort of countries around there are more used to matcha, different varieties of matcha, and so they know what to expect. I think we sometimes found it hard to like in a pop up like tasting to convert someone who's like hasn't heard it before, convert them straight away
Interesting.
when giving them a taste of like usucha, and then convert them on the spot to then buy. Like most of the people who are buying are people who like have had matcha before
And this is a better product.
of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then and then they're looking at it like, So especially because of what we sell as well, because we're selling something which is like, oh, different cultivars, different tasting notes, and like different types of matcha. So if they come up and they haven't even heard of matcha, it's quite hard to then like sell them like, oh, this is from Yama, this is from Muji, and I don't even know what matcha is. Is it tea? And it's like
Yeah.
quite hard to. So
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Like they're
yeah,
already matcha consumers, and
yeah,
it's first taste of a like, which probably their first taste of like a good product. Like if they're just used to getting matcha randomly from
Yeah.
yeah,
like
Yeah.
pick any random place.
Yeah. It's
yeah,
really
exactly.
nice to see when people are like, "Oh, this is so good." And sometimes we try to like call people who already just got like the blank street coffee matcha. Yeah, and they were like, "Oh, like this is really nice." I think we want to push a little bit more on like we want people to choose their own matcha origins and cultivars based on the tasting notes they like. But most of the time, they don't really care at that moment. I think they just like, okay, I just want matcha latte. Like that would be like around 80 or 90% of people who buy it just straight away matcha latte.
Because we put on when we do like a market, we put on the menu like different cultivars from
Yeah.
different regions, so they just like choose the region rather
Oh,
than like basically just choose matcha latte. We try to get them like to choose the region or the cultivar.
so the
Yeah,
the choice architecture
Yeah.
prompts the
yeah,
right thinking.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
If we do a pop up, we need to do this.
Yeah. Have you guys
Yeah.
patronized
yeah,
it?
We want to eventually have our own space, and hopefully it would be like a better experience and prompt people better to choose like different regions, just like kind of wine,
yeah,
because people are like familiar with the wine concept that you can choose the wine from Bordeaux or from Provence, but
Y-
matcha people still not familiar with that.
yeah. And that's one of the things are kind of like areas we try to look to different areas, like different products, to see like the way they're doing it with maybe in a different product, like different type of drink, and to
Yeah,
see like how that could be with matcha. And like, obviously, like wine is something that's very embedded as like a specialty, like fine product, and
Mm.
people are very accustomed, especially people who like know wine, to it being to picking from different regions and different types of grapes and the blends of different grapes as well. Yeah, and we feel like that there could be a lot more of that with matcha, especially in the UK. So we want to try and bring that in. But we've even looked to like in the UK, probably doesn't exist in like the US, but like the hot chocolate brand Noops, they
Mm.
have like the way they show like chocolate. It's like if you go into their one of their shops, it's like and they just sell like hot chocolate, and they'll have on the board like like you're choosing chocolate from different regions, different places, and they have like the percentage. I think they have the percentage cocoa like on the wall, and
Yeah.
yeah, you can choose it from different countries, and that's how you choose the chocolate. I think
cool.
that's like a really cool
Mm.
experience as
Yeah.
well. So we're trying to look to those different experiences, and I think it's something that could really
There's
help.
a chocolate mousse specialty place that looks like an ice cream store format, but it's just chocolate mousse, and it's the same concept in Paris, where it's different percentages and the origins of chocolate. It makes me
That's
Yeah.
cool.
it reminded me of that. Well, I think there's so much potential for it, and, like, I've been to London twice now in the past, like, I don't know, 3, 4 months for, like, to meet with friends, and but we had some free time, so we checked out the matcha scene, and, the bar is pretty low, so I think, like, you guys have,
Yeah,
like, huge
100%.
white space to fill, and, it's
Yeah.
much needed, I think, within London. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the
it's such
pain
an
will
in
be, educating the consumer along the way, we feel like. But that's
yeah.
also the fun of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if you tried to check out the match scene 3 years ago, you wouldn't have even been able to do it because there would have been no
Yeah.
scene.
You
Yeah.
guys are a great time, seriously, like,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
really exciting. You guys should expand to Paris too, we need it here.
I think the only issue is like the matcha supply that sort of kind of limit us to go there just yet.
How is the, shortage affect you guys so far?
It's really hard
It's
to
Yeah.
get matcha.
Yeah, because it's hard to like get the right quantities. I mean, I guess a lot of it depends on what relationships you have. Like might have like different relationships, but we're trying to like source directly from farms, and like a lot of them are like, yeah, we can't deliver that much to you. Um, with the amounts we're asking for, they just can't deliver it like as fast as kind of what we want, even though like we really like their matcha. So yeah, it's difficult to kind of grow if you can't get the quantities. But I mean,
I think, for example, like from the Yami one, they usually will grind the matcha fresh when we place the order, which is a really good thing because then that
Very
means
yeah,
nice.
that it's a really
yeah,
fresh matcha and we really like that concept. But the only thing is there's a lot of bottleneck at the grinding facilities because they share, I think that's like a kind of nationwide problems in Japan that there's a lot of bottlenecks there. So we would have to like place like a really large orders just to make sure that we will get that. And like the lead time now is probably like 2 months or so. And because we are still quite new, I would say like we are still like estimating the demand lower than it's actually come in. Like we are still not sure like how much we can sell every month. It's really varied.
yeah,
So and because we are small, so we cannot also place like way too much matcha because of the cash flow. So it's like a lot of kind of operational challenges, I would say, like what
yeah,
is the best for us to do. And that's why it's a part of that. It's also difficult to get matcha because once you have like the cash to place new orders, like it's gonna come quite late, and then you wouldn't have powder to deliver. So it was
yeah,
really, really tough. Like
yeah,
we could have like, for example, boost more sales like with while like doing more marketing, for example. But now we sort of have to slow down a little bit on our marketing strategy because even though we do it, then we might not have enough matcha to sell. So it's probably not worth kind of like snowballing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot to juggle.
Have you tried to maybe source matcha from other regions beyond all these famous or traditional areas?
Yeah, we are like trying a lot of matchas from other region as well, like Shizuoka and like small farm that they don't have a lot of order internationally just yet. But we still like look for the matcha that we feel like is a good quality that meets our standard, which I think that's also explain why it's hard because the good farm obviously like they might have more order coming
Yeah.
in. That's why like the lower quality one they might not have a lot of order because the quality doesn't meet the standard. It's a really hard problem. Yeah, like we also planning to launch the new one soon from the Ujiwara one because we really like the farm and we really like supporting small farms that produce good quality. But again, like because of the small facility, then there is like the maximum order that we can order every month.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah. I mean, but one of the things we want to do is show matcha from different regions. So it's something that we want to do to
Yeah.
expand and to showcase from different places.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the difficult thing is we both work full time.
Wow.
Our background
A
is
lot, even more to juggle.
I know, yeah, like our background is in behavioral science, so we're both like working in a consulting industry, and yeah, we're juggling between two.
Yeah, we actually met studying behavioral science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Behavioral science. So, like, do you guys like work on like consumer behavioral science, or is it like other application?
Yeah, more
Yeah.
like consumer.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Whoa, you guys have the perfect background for this.
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So we like, yeah. I mean, we're trying to like apply that kind of thinking into how we market as well.
Yeah.
Have you actually test any theories or set up any experiment yet?
Not the experiment, but I would say because we have the rare matcha,
Mm.
which is actually like the Uji Hikari one. It has come in a very like low quantity. So we use like this is the rare matcha and it's more expensive. So we have to add a bit extra. Like if you want extra, you need to pay a little bit more. And when we say rare, it works really well because of like scarcity effect that people see, oh, this is like a limited edition thing,
Yeah.
like scarce thing. So that works really well.
Mm.
Yeah. It's not intentional though. It's like it's really rare. It's not like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's just, know what kind of things to highlight, which are going to like resonate with people. Obviously always sticking to like what is authentic and what is actually true.
Yeah.
So you guys, like your day to day, are you guys like working with like CPG companies, FMCG, and like their marketing teams and like understanding consumer behavior? Is that like
In our full-time job,
your full time job?
I have worked a bit, with FMCG companies a little bit and understanding kind of, their behavior and how they would choose and what kind of things would affect the choices they make, like how communication is framed to them, how marketing's framed, things that can change the perception of the types of words that are used, or the way things are framed to them.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, that's
Yeah.
really
Fascinating.
really good frameworks that you have learned from that background that you're like thinking about applying to kind of spread the idea of matcha as a specialty product. Kind of like how you were talking about like with wine, how like there's all of these varieties and cultivars and like using these knowledge structures, but promoting them in matcha so that like people don't think of it as a commodity. Like what like framework could you take from behavioral science or have you taken to try to like shift the mindset that it's like a specialty food or a fine food?
Yeah, so there's this concept on like reciprocity, almost like if you show like all the work behind the scene, then that would really helps people to see and like increase the value perception that they have on the product. For example, you might see the chocolate, some of the chocolate brand, they probably have like the chef making chocolate, and that also can
Like the Lindt chef
yeah,
doing
yeah,
the
yeah.
yeah.
We recommend like the clients to do that. So I think like we try to sell the story like of behind the scene in the workshops or in our on our Instagram to tell people like matcha actually requires a lot of work behind the scene, which is true, but like people like can hear a little bit more and make it more like distinct to
Yeah.
people.
It's just the way it's communicated. It can be communicated in so many different ways, and there's so many different like frames of communication that can be given to people to like understand this product. It's not people aren't just like consuming the product itself, can kind of consuming the story around it.
Yeah.
And there's so many different stories that can be told.
Yeah. And like the use of color, there's like a lot of color psychology. I mean, I'm not like neurodesign, but there's a little bit like of concept around that of the visual hierarchy, and we try to integrate that into our packaging. There's still I think there's still a lot of room for improvement on the website and the packaging, but yeah, we're trying to embed that and kind of introduce a sensory experience in the packaging, because I think that makes a much a difference from like different region and cultivar, but it's not presented as much because when you look through the shelf or on website on Amazon, like what's the difference?
Mm.
Well,
Because it's all
yeah,
visual.
yeah, yes. So we have like the OG one is more floral, so we have the image of like cherry blossoms because that is quite floral. It's not like rose that has very strong like florals, and cherry blossom also plays really well with like Japanese like kind of theme.
Motif kind of.
Yeah, and for the yame one is more smoky or like roasting, so we have kind of like the smoke around the tea leaves, and also the taro in yame is more like misty, like the taro that this particular cultivar is grown is kind of misty on the hill, so it's kind of like a little bit nuanced and abstract, so people can interpret.
Bring in all the senses.
Yeah, bring the sense.
Interesting. It might be interesting if you can like set up some kind of A/B tests to test different, visual language, visual communication. When like a person clicks into the website, it just randomly leads the person into a different version of that presentation. You can calculate the click rate or the amount of time they spend on the web page.
I actually love looking at like the stats, the analytics for the website, like when you change something, how it changes like the conversion rate and stuff like that. It's like really interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot more interesting when it's your product.
How would you guys think about like there's like the consumer piece of this where consumers deciding I want to be a regular specialty matcha consumer. This is something I'm interested in, both intellectually, learning the regions and the process, etc., and in the taste, like the actual hedonic pleasure of consuming this thing and its flavors. But there's also the B2B side where the biggest change makers with the largest leverage are the cafes where all the on-premise preparation is happening and exposing a new generation, a new set of consumers to this product. How do we market to the business people and the coffee people and the people who have this really enormous leverage who are choosing to put it on the menu and deciding what that story should be?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's the thing is that like we've got so many ideas about how cafes could be like giving this customers like in like ready to drink format. Part of us is like, should we be saving these ideas for like and create our own space, or should we like, like But we have kind of like, so when we sell to, because we do sell to like some cafes and stuff, we kind of tried to say, oh, these are some cool things you could do with like how you put it on the menu and stuff. You can sell it through the different regions, or the way you prepare it. You could prepare it in this cool way that's different to what other people do. So we try to like bring in that consulting element to it as well.
Mm,
To say that like we're not just giving you a product, but we also like we there's like a partnership here that you can work with, and we can like advise you on how to do it. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, we also offer like complimentary training for them so that they know how to properly like make the matcha and how do they present the products to customers. Like if the customers ask the information, then they can say it correctly. So we
Oh, yeah.
offer all that because there's still like a lot of kind of brewing techniques that they might make a shortcut, to be honest, because like in the cafe scene it's really busy and they probably don't have time to whisk it properly in every bowl, and that's a really big challenge, and
Yeah.
we would always recommend do not pre-make. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think as well, because you talk about the opportunity in B2B, I think that there's other spaces as well which we'd love to like work with, which you can use to match, like places like hotels where you could create like an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about like afternoon tea and stuff in the UK, like so typically like hotels would have like an afternoon tea experience, like that would be like the place to go for that. But if you could incorporate like more matcha experience into that, that could be a way of maybe bringing that into kind of the modern day a bit more, and it'd be really cool to work with hotels on that. Yeah, and the other places which we think would be cool to kind of bring more matcha into would be like in offices or workplaces, because obviously everyone has like coffee machines and stuff, and work they were preparing matcha to start the day, to like to power them for the day ahead, then that could be cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, got to
Tons of
frame
benefit.
them focusing on productivity throughout the day.
I think the biggest opportunity is that, but the challenge too is like imagine like what that like little matcha station looks like if not everyone knows how to use the equipment, or
Yeah.
to keep the dry side dried, the wet side wet, to hydrate the cha sen, to clean it afterwards. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
logistically, I don't know
that's
how
true.
you would do it, but I think it'd be cool.
be a bit tricky. Yeah, someone needs to invent like the equivalent of an espresso machine where the preparation complexity is abstracted away and like it's a push button kind of experience someday.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. But I mean, I wouldn't have the knowledge to know how to do that. But I think there is an opportunity there.
I think we
Really
saw.
tricky hardware problem.
Yeah.
We've given it a lot of power and thought.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, this is really tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw like this matcha in the tube product. Not sure if you guys have seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
it's the
We saw it.
internet controversy.
It's
That's
very
controversial, yeah.
controversial,
Yeah.
and actually after that happened, I mean, it's a really great idea for convenience. Like just like what you say, like it could work in the office. But from that incident, I just realized, wow, like the way that people like who love matcha so much, like they are very protective of the cultures behind it, which is really, really nice as well in a way. But it just makes us feel like, oh my god, like we need to be very careful when we communicate everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was a great case study for the rest of the industry because
Yeah.
like it's not a bad idea. It just had literally the world's worst messenger.
Yeah. I think wasn't it like because at the start of the video, and they just like swiped all the traditional Japanese stuff, like really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure if we can include this in the podcast.
Even from a product perspective, like we haven't tried that one, but we have tried some other ones in Wuji actually, and they didn't taste good. It's just
It's
a
a long
bad
way to go.
product.
Yeah.
It's a long way to go.
Yeah, I cannot imagine it would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the color and I don't know. The taste.
Yeah.
Like the one we tried, the color was actually very suspiciously green. Like it's
Very great.
very green.
Two
Artificial
ingredients,
color?
matcha and water. It's kind of like slightly thicker than a koi cha, but
There's definitely something other than matcha in that tube. Some really interesting citrus note. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I think they need to add like preservatives.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
so. I don't know
probably.
how it was green either. It was very almost off-putting. But you
Yeah.
know, it was priced low. I think it was under $10. for like pretty large tubes. So like the expectation to the taste kind of made sense.
Yeah.
Granted, it didn't taste good. Might be nice for a cookie or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sometimes we get people who they want to buy matcha, and I sort of say, "Oh, this would be great if we could use this matcha for like making like cookies or making like our desserts and stuff." I always sort of say like,
Yeah.
sort of don't know how to like respond to that always because we're like, oh, like this is like meant to be for like drinking. I mean, you can use it, but you'd be overpaying for
Yeah.
using a product that you don't need to put
Yeah.
into baking goods as well. That's why we've tried to like add a kind of advice consulting element onto like what we sell. But then also we don't want to be like, oh, we're telling you what to do with our product. Like if you buy it, then it's up to you what to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are matcha that just meant for, being put into a bakery or
Yeah.
it's even in Hawaii Shichimeyan, like they have like matcha designed for latte on their menu. There are matcha meant to be served for certain purposes, and
Yeah.
this whole matcha shortage thing, it's really a shortage of good matcha. There's no shortage of, other matcha.
Yeah, that's true. At Japan Center, they sometimes have like Marukyu matcha. And there was the day that they restocked that, and we were doing the sampling there as well. And obviously, like a lot of people come to find Marukyu matcha, but they already run out of the like the one for the Ususha one. There's only have like the cooking grade left, and people who wants the matcha for drinking, they just get the cooking grade because they don't know the difference, but they just know the brand,
Yeah.
which is quite interesting to see.
Yeah.
And we're just like, okay, like, do you want to try a matcha? And if you want to make drinks, maybe this one's better. Yeah, they did it, but like it's quite interesting how this Marukyu trend is like really everyone's seeking for Marukyu matcha.
Yeah. It's a little crazy. Actually, I was just reflecting on this the other day because they put out this big announcement saying trying to crack down on resellers.
Yeah,
Like another way of looking at this is that Marukyu is pricing under value. So like the moment someone buys it, it is literally worth more on the secondary market because there's so much demand and it is so scarce. And it's because you see other industries doing this, like, famously like the luxury industry, like Rolex or Hermes, purposely price their products below their value. And the moment you walk out with it, it automatically becomes worth more on the secondary market. And it's a really interesting phenomenon that's now happening to matcha, which is like bizarre because it's a perishable product. And
yeah,
I understand why they're cracking down on resellers. Who knows what happened to those cans when you buy them on eBay? But it's an interesting choice that they're keeping suppressing prices very low.
mm,
And I wonder when or if they want to harvest more of that value, because the way you crack down on the secondary market is by pricing to value so that, when you buy it, right, like it's not automatically worth more the moment it's in your hands.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Very convenient way for them to raise prices by the end of the day.
I mean, but it's also what the market is saying it's worth.
Yeah, that's true.
But then you're also like, then it becomes this elite thing. And now you're pricing out tons of people. So, like, what they're doing is very good for the average consumer if you can get your hands on it, keeping it at an accessible price point. Curious to hear what your thoughts are on that in the industry that you work in. Because, like, I feel this really falls into like consumer behavior, like sphere around like the scarcity and secondary market and the way people are deciding to price things.
Yeah, I think it's so like for Thailand, there's so many resellers that like got the matcha from Japan and they sell it at like 10 times or even more, which is quite disheartening to see. And then, but I think for the UK landscape, people they sort of don't order matcha online from the Japanese brand that much because the shipping cost is quite a lot. So
Yeah.
they tend to seek for kind of the option of like UK brand a lot more. And I would say the pricing, people kind of know that if they get like the £8 matcha for 30 grams, which is probably similar to like €8, 7, €8, it's gonna be like the low quality one, and especially if they get it from the Asian market.
Mm.
The price that they would see is quite reasonable for the good quality. Is probably like 15 and higher. And we use like the first harvest matcha, and it's also stone meal. But because we feel like we want to make matcha quite accessible and feel like a good margin. A lot of people actually say it's quite affordable, which is like I would say like our matcha is really good value for money, and but we try to sort of shift a little bit more because like there will be higher cost on matcha, like the farmers already told us that there's like 30% increase in the fertilizer price and cost in everything and lower yield. So we sort of need to prompt people that and anchor people that it will be a little bit more. I think it's easy to convince people who knows what is the good quality of matcha is and the pricing, but it's still hard to convert people who not used to good quality matcha to
Yeah,
cheap.
it'll make that even harder, that
Yeah,
jump.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
10 pounds or more. Yeah.
Yeah, but when you talk about consumer pricing, I guess like 'cause sometimes when you're on the as a like brand like trying to sell it, you might like look to what it costs and then like add a margin on. But then to like consumers, they don't know any of like the background costs, so they have to like
Yeah.
have different criteria for how they decide what's value for money, what's not. And a lot of the times that comes from either having like a reference point to like another product, like if it's in a cafe, comparing it to how much coffee costs, or you know, just like what else is out there in the market, or kind of if there's any signals of quality and stuff. Like people are used to like signals like organic, like even though matcha wouldn't have like the umami flavor that you get from an organic product, certain words like that would make them think, oh, I can pay more, like, you know, organic. And then you can introduce new things like ceremonial grade is a big thing, which is like even though it's like a bit of a marketing term, which is kind of like boost the price of the product, made it seem like, oh, this is something I can pay more for.
Yeah.
I guess yeah, they have to go. It's interesting, like it's like the pricing kind of it works very differently when you look at it for a consumer versus when you're selling it. I think
Yeah.
so. When we try to like think about pricing, it's good to try and think about it from the consumer who comes at it perspective, who doesn't know all the background costs and how they would look at how they would compare it against other products.
It's very interesting because you know it works both ways from a consumer perspective, right? Like you would match a you know a high quality product with you know higher or more appropriate price tag, but also on the other hand you would expect a high quality product to be more expensive. So sometimes you probably want to give the product a slightly higher price to reflect its quality
Yeah,
to the consumer.
yeah. There's something in like behavioral science called like the price quality heuristic, where it's like if something's priced higher, then people will use that as a kind of rule of thumb to say, oh, it's probably
Yeah.
high.
It's
So
an
it's not
indicator of higher quality.
it's not the quality for it's not them going, oh, this is high quality, so it should be priced high. It's actually the other way around. Sometimes they're
Yeah.
going, this is priced high, so it must be high quality.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they convince themselves because they've
Yeah.
already spent the money. I
Yeah.
remember, I forget
Yeah.
what situation I was in, but I remember like it was some touristy place. It was very famous, and I heard like a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is so good." And I'm thinking to the back of my mind, well, this is kind of expensive. I don't think this is very good. And I think they're just convincing themselves how incredible it is because like they spent all this money to get here and like to pay for this thing.
Was that in Paris?
I think it was in, like, a wine context or something.
Yeah,
I forget what the context was. I
yeah,
remember how I was feeling at the time.
Yeah.
yeah.
You sort of need to justify that, oh, like I already paid this amount, so it got to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's very hard though because like when you are starting the business in the market where the matcha knowledge is still like not quite widespread, and then you also want to get out there to so people can buy your product. If you set like price too high, but people don't really know your brand just yet, it's quite hard to sell. Like in the first few months that we started, it's really hard to get people to buy our matcha because they think like a lot of feedback we got like, oh, this is quite expensive. Like when we do sampling in Japan Center because they only have like the matcha for like £8.
Yeah, I mean, because it's
Yeah.
the context, isn't it? So, because when we were first selling it, it wasn't ours wasn't that expensive, but it was the most expensive like in the shop at the time. So it like looked really expensive compared to what they had because yeah, they just had some like cheaper versions. But
Yeah.
now they have like more expensive versions, so it doesn't look as expensive. And there's some people saying like, "Oh, this is really like affordable matcha," which I kind of don't like. Like, I don't want people to like say to use the word not I don't want it to be affordable, but I don't want it to be like that to be the main descriptor of it as affordable.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Because that has
Yeah.
different connotations.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
How do you prime people to think quality?
Yeah. I mean, we've spoken with like other business owners in like different categories also producing natural products. Like people like in the olive oil industry, like have an olive oil brand. It's like a similar thing in a way where they're trying to source from farmers in Italy and then sell it under their brand.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, but they had like the way they priced that olive oil, and they had like some sales, and then there was a shortage of olive oil because there wasn't a high yield for that year in the harvest of olive oil, so their prices had to go up. So when they put the prices up, they actually sold more at the higher price than they were like the previous year. It become like there was like an olive oil shortage, and then it was like people like really want the olive oil. So then the next year there was a much higher yield, and so there was more olive oil available. So really, you should have put the prices down. But people were saying, "Are you going to put the prices down?" It was like, "No, because it sold more." So now elevated price. Yeah,
That's
Seeing
cool.
price
Good for them.
Yeah. It's really interesting to see that in the Western world, there are quite a lot more products that they trying to do, like sourcing from small farms and introducing nuances like olive oil. They also there's like a trend in that as well. This one is from Greece. This one is from Italy. From
Yes,
this
and like,
cultivar.
the single origin. It's
Yeah,
interesting actually as well, like, seeing how many different food products work in a similar way that you might not have always expected. Because two like food products, and it's obviously a completely different experience tasting it or using it. But the actual, if you're a brand who uses that product, the actual experience of like running that has a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think ultimately, like giving someone the context to understand why it's good, like to do their own self-evaluation. Why is this good? And like cultivar, region, like all of these things, processing. We can all borrow and learn from each other across like these industries.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Like, because when you have like a brand as well, it's like we don't make anything. Like, it's made it's manufactured by the farmer. So other people might have like a food or drink product where they're like making a drink or something with a certain recipe. We are so all we're doing really is just like trying to sell a story about we're curating the matcha that we think is like really high quality, and then we're just telling the story of it, and showing them why they should buy it, and trying to get them to appreciate matcha from where we sourced it from.
That's awesome. Well, it's a really important part of the value chain because, like, I guess what all of like everyone who's focused on specialty, like, we're creating a new market. We're creating a new type of consumer, right? That's making purchasing decisions and evaluating and consumption behavior on a very different set of axes than someone who just wants it in a bubble tea or in a random latte, or someone who wants it for a tea ceremony, for that matter, right? Like, it's a
Yeah,
different market. But like that market needs context, basically.
yeah, yeah, and it's quite interesting, like experience. And when you come into the industry, there might be because there's a balance between like selling to people in a way in what people are already accustomed to. So like the common way, like the popular way to experience matcha is through like the matcha lattes with a lot of milk and without appreciating the different cultivars. But when you want to sell something new, you have to kind of sell in a way in which which isn't their most popular way of like consuming or something, because you are trying to sell something new. If that makes sense. So it's kind of like, but then also you don't want to be, if you kind of sell to people in a way which is like completely alien to them, it's not something which they're accustomed to or they have any kind of experience with, then it might not resonate with them as much. So it's like a balance between
Yeah.
giving them something new or resonating with what their interests are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You probably need a little bit of both along
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a difficult needle to thread.
Yeah.
We struggle with that too. Like
In what
all
way?
the time, actually, because like you have to meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
And even on the podcast, like we
Yeah.
mostly think that we're speaking to like a B2B audience and people, or like consumers who already know a lot about like all the various aspects of specialty matcha. Like, do we define Hanzu shaded every time
Yeah.
that we talk about it? Do we describe what an
Yeah.
ishizu is every time we use that word? Like, for half of the audience, probably it's like annoying, and for the other half, it's extremely helpful. And like
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it really, by the end of the day, depends on what you care and who you care about. It will act almost as a natural filter
Yeah.
to filter out the audience that you wanted to have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like we're not gonna cannot reduce the price even further to capture like people who say, "Oh, this is expensive," you know.
Yeah.
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 They're just
And
never gonna be your consumers.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I think another interesting point now that we're talking about this is like there's a big cultures of matcha girlies in the West.
Mm.
I never seen that before in Thailand because actually most of the matcha cafe owners seem to be like men who revolutionized like the way of drinking matcha. And also when I go to the cafe with my friends, there's a mixed group of like there's a lot of men and not just girls drinking
Yeah,
matcha.
it's a more gender balance. I've noticed that too.
Yeah. Or even in like back in the day, samurai like drink matcha.
Yeah, primarily a men's activity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like expensive as well.
We
Yeah.
were just talking with someone in Australia about that who does a lot of pop-ups, and she was saying the number of like young teenage girls that are
Mm.
coming up to the booth, dragging the parents, saying, "I want this matcha." Like, "Mom,
Yeah.
Dad, taste the matcha." She made such an interesting observation that just completely blew my mind and kind of feels obvious now, is that like this new generation of adolescents is forming a very different relationship with caffeine, and that like they want a more balanced energy profile. They want something with some functional benefits. And instead of getting hooked on coffee, when you're 14, 15, 16, 17, when you're kind of getting more exposed to like adult, like the caffeine culture that we all live in, and like have like a lot of people like depend on, and they're forming that relationship with matcha and not with coffee.
And that's like a entire generation, and they're impacting their parents, and also like imagine their kids will be growing up in that culture too. So this whole culture is going to last for many years in the future, probably never disappeared.
Probably be the dominant culture. Like, if you
Yeah.
project out the number of people that's happening to, like, even my sister, who's 7 years younger than me, that's what all of her friends wanna drink. Like, they don't know anything about tea, they're not particularly interested in Japanese culture. Like, it's fascinating. Like, going
Yeah.
home and, like, sometimes, like, her friends are around, and I'm like, "Oh, whoa, wow," and they know quite a bit about matcha, like, more than you would think. Probably more than, like, the same age group knows about coffee, that
Yeah.
drinks coffee every
Yeah.
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 And do you think that will extend to like men and women going forward? Or do you think?
I think so too. I don't see why not.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Like it's really a internationalization movement or a moment for matcha because, for coffee, it originated from Ethiopia, but, I bet not too many people know about traditional Ethiopian cultural history while drinking coffee.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen to matcha in the future too. It will be
Yeah,
lifted up
exactly, yeah.
from the culture of birth into a more, nationless and cultureless element on its own.
I mean, it'll
But
have to
that
be
will happen
because
slowly.
Yeah, and it also expand to other kind of Japanese cultural elements as well. Like people now look for a different experience, like ikebana and matcha, and which is really it's kind of beautiful moments when you like kind of can introduce other aspects of mindfulness practices in
Yeah,
the
For
Japanese
sure.
life.
yeah,
Really having an international moment.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean that's another interesting because it's kind of like a slightly different element, but also interesting element is like the philosophy around matcha and then like tea ceremony and stuff, like bringing that in because we try and bring in a little bit of that in the matcha tasting experience, even though a lot of it's focused on the different cultivars. I guess that's like um as like slightly different like strand to like just focusing on the cultivars and the farming and the production and stuff. There's just a lot of different elements to matcha which you can kind of explore and stories you can tell. Yeah.
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 It adds so much depth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And
Yeah, it's a gateway. It's a gateway towards many things.
I think that's what makes matcha so unique compared to a lot of other things. Like,
yeah.
there's some South American herb called Guayusa that's caffeinated, but like as far as I know, there's not like a huge consumption culture or like this
Hmm.
really rich tradition of consumption like we see in matcha and like the impact that that's had culturally, at least within Japan. But there's
Yeah.
probably all of these different like plants that have various functional properties that just don't have the cultural richness,
Yeah.
which it really does make it endless to explore. Like there are pathways to go down to expand on.
Yeah.
Like there's so many elements from like across the supply chain, like from planting, harvesting, producing, and consuming. Like you have Chasen, like there's a cultures like craft
Yeah,
craft
Yeah.
all the
restaurant.
related. Yeah,
Yeah, like Japan and like oh my god, everything.
Yeah.
All right. So moving forward, what's the plan for Haru Matcha?
Yeah, so I mean, we've got so many different ideas for how we want to expand. I think like one of our dreams, or probably like our biggest dream, is to have like our own like space where we curate a matcha menu where we show the different cultivars, and so people can really like experience different cultivars, and we can like talk them through the tasting notes. We kind of like, because it's a difficult place to go in like straight away without like significant funds. We kind of like explored this place of doing these like pop-ups and tasting experiences and having our own brand. So I think like for the foreseeable future, we're just going to try and do more of these pop-up events, like working in more markets to kind of test this experience of like taking them through like the different cultivars, different regions, and work in partnerships with people with different cafes to kind of like sell this experience in a little bit more as well. But yeah, we just really love like combining the experience of tasting matcha and appreciation for the quality, the nuance, and the depth of flavor that you can get with different cultivars and different matcha, as opposed to just like drinking matcha as a generic product.
Yeah.
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 That's wonderful. I'm sure like along the way you probably end up finding a lot of peers and like-minded people that, can share the journey experience too.
Yeah. It's really fun to see how they react on like what we tell them, and so we just feel so happy like seeing people. And I think another factor is that we like after we factor in like the problems of the matcha shortage, we also probably have to think about how we can tackle that. So we would like to be like the UK's brand that specialize in Japanese tea. So we want to also expand to other kind of tea that is still very very good quality, like Gyukuro or like even like
Oh,
Kuchisha, like
Yeah.
Hodisha and Hodisha in general, because we also try like Hodisha from Uji and Yamen. Also, it tastes different.
hmm.
So
Yeah,
Oh,
a
cool.
lot of nuances around every single thing.
Yeah.
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 that's wonderful.
Hojicha in particular, I think it's a under like explored rabbit hole in the
Yeah.
matcha,
Yeah.
especially the differences. Because like people just talk about hojicha powder, but like the different expressions or leaf compositions or roast levels, like
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still a lot of things to learn.
Yeah.
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 Oh, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Congrats. And really love what
Looking
you guys.
forward.
Yeah.
I'd love to come to London, come to one of your workshops sometime. It sounds
Yeah.
really cool.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be cool.
Thank you so much for coming on. Love the work that you're doing. And for all the listeners, thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed it, please consider sharing it with a friend. And that's all we got. Thanks.
Thank
See you
you
in
so
the
much.
next episode.
See ya.
Yeah. Thank you.